everyone, this is Meiping from CGTN Digital reporting live at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing, which is the venue for China's Two Sessions. The Two Sessions is one of the most important political events of China. It refers to the National People's Congress, or NPC, and the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, or the CPPCC. And in about 15 minutes, the CPPCC members' corridor is going to be held. And during the session, the CPPCC members will provide their ideas and answer questions from the media. And after that is the opening session of this year's CPPCC. So before that, I'm going to give you a tour in the venue and just to give you some of the background information of the upcoming sessions. So let's move inside. So now we're here at the central hall of the Great Hall of the People. And later on, the very big room in front of me is actually the hall for the opening session of the CPPCC. Maybe we cannot go inside right now, but maybe we can see through the door over there. So if you can see through the door, this is the hall for the opening session of the CPPCC. And you might not be familiar with the CPPCC. The CPPCC is China's top political advisory body. It facilitates the country's multi-party cooperation as well as the political consultation mechanism led by the Communist Party of China. And the members of CPPCC, they come from China's various walks of life and ethnic groups. And they are selected through consultation and recommendations. And the body actually has some star power. You might heard of some of their names. For example, actor Jackie Chan and former NBA star Yao Ming. And the CPPCC session is going to start today on March 4th. And it will be concluded on March 10th. And the duration of the CPPCC session is about 6.5 days. And the CPPCC members will submit proposals, non-binding proposals about major political and social issues they have observed. And just to give you a number, last year in 2020, there were over 4,000 proposals submitted by the CPPCC members. And if you want to know more about the two sessions, about the NPC and the CPPCC, actually we have something very special and fun for you. And the thing is called CGTN AI Panda. So just want to give you a little preview of how the Panda works. So here I just entered the page of the Panda.
Do you know the stories about the two sessions? CGTN Panda knows all.
So I'm just going to hit start. And after hitting start, you can see here we have 6 questions regarding the two sessions. And since we're going to have the CPPCC corridor and the opening session of CPPCC, I'm going to take question number 4 for an example. And this question is the CPPCC a political flower vase? So after enter the question, you can see 2 answers. A says, yes, it has little political influence. And B says, no, it's a key part of China's political system. And do you know the answer? I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about the answer. Okay, I think you have your answer now, and I'm going to choose B as my answer.
The Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, CPPCC, whose annual session is part of the two sessions, holds an important role in ensuring rule of law in the country. It is neither an organ of power nor a legislative body, but a political advisory body with Chinese characteristics and important political strengths. Political consultation, democratic supervision, and participation in and deliberation of state affairs are magic weapons for the CPPCC to help solve people's problems. It serves as a spotlight and magnifier, helping push important issues into the decision-making process and contributes to policy consultation and implementation.
Okay, so after you selected the answer, the panda will give you an explanation of this question. And if you want to listen to the explanation again, you can hit the play button on the panda, if you can see from here, and the panda will just tell you about the question again. And well, let's take one more question. And the second question is, why are the 2 sessions held in March? So I'm going to choose, maybe it's something to do with the budget.
Actually, the 2 sessions.
And just since we're at this question, normally the annual 2 sessions is held in March, but last year is very special because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The whole events was postponed to May, so that's one of the differences you may want to know. And we're now approaching the press conference hall of the CPPCC corridor. So here is the press hall for the CPPCC corridor. And during this session, the CPPCC members will provide their ideas and what they have observed in the past years, as well as their hope for the future of China to the media. And media will ask questions from the media center, which is at another building, because due to the requirements of epidemic prevention and control, we cannot have face-to-face interviews with the CPPCC member. This method was also adopted last year during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we're now going to switch to CGTN's special TV program about the 2 sessions, and you will be watching the CPPCC corridor, and after that is the opening session of the CPPCC. So we're now switching to CGTN's TV channel, so please stay tuned. I will see you around.
Hello there, everyone. Always a pleasure to have you on our coverage of China's annual political season. I'm Zhongshi in Beijing.
And I'm Wang Yang. Lawmakers and advisors are in Beijing for their annual meetings or the 2 sessions. And this is, of course, a key event on the national political calendar. In about an hour, the advisory body, the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, will begin its opening session, and Chairman Wang Yang will deliver a work report.
2021 marks the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Communist Party of China, and it's also the starting year of the country's new 5-year plan. The 2 sessions this year are expected to help draft the blueprint of China's development.
Yeah, and this year, the members' corridor will continue to give political advisors a chance to speak directly to the public, and CGTN will bring you live streaming of the on-the-spot discussions.
That's right. Let's go live there now. We understand this year's first Members Corridor event is expected to start shortly. The press will have a chance to speak directly to political advisors. For more, CGTN's Tian Wei is live at the scene with more details. Tian Wei, people are quite fond of this event called the Members Corridor because they get a chance to see how political advisors will interact with members of the press directly. What more do you have for us?
Yes, indeed. In fact, they're coming into that door in just 2 to 3 minutes. So I'm going to be quite quick. This is a special place in the Great Hall of the People in which the CPPCC members, NPC deputies, representatives are going to answer questions coming from the media. Of course, this year it's going to be special coming from the big screen. You can see journalists already sitting there in the media center just a few miles away from here with a special arrangement for prevention and control of the pandemic. Now, this year is going to be a special year because China last year managed to be the only economy that has managed to put some positive economic growth rate down there with successful prevention and control measures. Meanwhile, China has also been able to eliminate extreme poverty after decades of effort. This year, 2021, 100th anniversary of Chinese Communist Party, a lot to celebrate about, but more daunting tasks ahead. For example, how to boost the domestic economy when the rest of the world is still experiencing this sluggish economic growth rate. Meanwhile, how to transform China's economy to carbon neutral, carbon zero. What is the blueprint and also the roadmap? And at the same time, how will China be able to face up to the challenge of getting old already before getting rich with a decreasing fertility rate over the past few years? One most important thing, that is, how will it be able to reduce the technological dependence on others, given the complicated geopolitics? Among the 7 members of the CPPCC who are going to answer the questions from there, a lot of them are coming from the science and technological field, from medical science to agricultural science, and also to the exploration of the outer space. There will be a lot of sparkles in the air when they answer the questions in this very special year. Back to you, Zhongshi.
Tianwei, we look forward to seeing all of these sparkles and the answers from the CPPCC members that will walk through this corridor in no time.
Yeah, so now let's get some more analysis with our guests here in the studio. We have with us Mr. Wang Yang and Lawrence Braun. Mr. Wang was appointed a counselor to China State Council by Premier Li Keqiang in 2015. And now, yeah, let's get to some live feed from the Great Hall of the People. Tianwei was just mentioning the members' corridor, and now we have some live feed there.
Yeah, this is the venue of China's annual political season, where that could happen in a few minutes' time. We have 2 great minds in the studio who are watching this with us, and they will offer their insight and their analysis into many of the topics mentioned by reporter Tianwei, and also will be covered by CPPCC members as they walk through that corridor just now. We look forward to that speech by Wang Yang later in our program.
Yeah, and now, so we will be hearing a lot throughout the 2 hours from our guest. Mr. Wang was appointed a counselor to China State Council by Premier Li Keqiang in 2015, and Mr. Lawrence Braun is a senior fellow at the Center for China and Globalization. Now, this year's event will be, the CPPCC session will last 6.5 days, and of course, the members have been very active on making proposals concerning the key issues for this year's session. For example, poverty alleviation, the 14th five-year plan, and also family planning. Now, if you were to list your top concerns for this year's meeting, what would be your top 3, Mr. Wang?
Well, I think this is really a great time to have this national gathering again of 2 sections. It's actually when China now actually just celebrated Chinese New Year and they're getting a new busy political season actually will start on March. But I think these 2 sections get a lot of attention, both in China and worldwide. First, China has already...
Our apologies for interrupting you. We'll come back to that discussion later in our program. We want to take our viewers straight to the venue of the CPPCC session. We understand the chairman of CPPCC National Committee, Wang Yang, will speak in a short moment.
So we have gathered at the members' corridor, and here inside the Great Hall of the People, we have invited some members of the CPPCC to answer some of your questions. Because of COVID-19, we are also conducting this in a virtual manner, and we are at the Media News Center due to time constraints. Each member is allowed to answer only 1 question. And now let's invite the first batch of members. Now please introduce yourselves. I'm a member of CPPCC. My name is Huan Yuming from China Agriculture Academy. I'm a member of CPPCC. I'm from China Aviation Corporation. My name is Bao Weiming. I'm from September the 3rd, a member of CPPCC. My name is Zhou Hongyi, founder and the CEO of 360. Now please ask questions. First question, please. Thank you very much. I'm from the Agriculture Daily. And my question is directed to Mr. Wang. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the CPC, and this is also the first year of the 14th five-year plan. And food and agriculture safety is very important, and we have made it very clear to secure food supply. And what is the general situation of food production? And how do we consolidate food safety and agricultural sovereignty? Thank you very much for your question. Well, this is a big country, and the food security is very important. It's a question that is related to each and every one of us. And as you might know, that for six consecutive years, the total production of food and agriculture has been on a rise. In particular, beans and wheat and rice per capita volume has exceeded the average of the world's total. So we can guarantee that at any given time we are able to buy rice and flour from the supermarkets. So this is very important for a country with the population of 1.4 billion people. And this is also in itself a great contribution to the whole world. And we can never slacken our efforts in ensuring food safety. And we have to rely on policy as well as innovation. And during the 13th five-year plan, technology contributed significantly to food safety. And it's contributed 54.8%. And technology is also empowering the provision of food and agricultural products. So in general, most of the Chinese agricultural products are using Chinese seeds. And with the improvement of technology, we can guarantee that we can feed all the Chinese population very well. And I don't know if you can feel this very strongly in recent years, that the quality of rice has dramatically improved. Now rice has become more delicious. Well, this is because we are selecting better seeds. And some of the seeds we're using can compare and compete to first-class brands in the world. And we are also pushing on the market some special rices that are suitable for people suffering from diabetes. To secure food safety, we have to further strengthen our efforts. To guarantee the safety of seeds, we have to do the following. Number one, we have to guarantee safety and security. And in some key areas, we are still lagging behind. To just give you some example, in recent years there is growing demand in soybeans and corns, but the per unit production is still lagging behind. And we are still facing some difficulties in these areas, and that is why the CPC Central Committee is very committed to overcoming these difficulties by improving our seeds and by engaging in innovation and embracing technology and improving our independent innovation. At present, China Agriculture Academy is expected to use some of the new seeds and some of the new technologies, and with that, we are able to provide a lot more options for agricultural seeds. And we also have plans to further engage in technological innovation so that we can provide even more powerful technological support to China's agricultural production. Right now, we are at the time of spring sowing, and so we expect to have a good harvest this year. Thank you very much. Now, the next question, please.
请北区第2排最右侧那位记者提问。
Thank you. From People's Daily. My question is to member Bao Weiming. Not long ago, the first Mars probe, Tianwen-1, arrived in the Mars. We are very concerned about it. Could you brief us about this Mars probe? And as an aerospace practitioner, to you, what is the treasure in this industry? Thank you for the questions. I'm proud to inform you that now Tianwen-1 is now orbiting around the Mars at the speed of 4.8 kilometers per second. Everything is in order. And today we have received the first local picture about the Mars in a short distance. That's the first of its kind in China that we received from the Mars. A lot of scientific information are awaiting the analysis of scientists. And in our history of discovering the solar system, Mars has always bestowed us a lot of imagination and expectation. For this moment, around the world, we have conducted 47 times of such probing around the Mars, including 22 from the US, 20 from Russia. But 2/3 of such Mars discovery missions failed in the past. This shows us that we have a lot of difficulties in this history. But although Tianwen-1 started late, we have a good start. We face a lot of challenges, but we are innovative enough. So, for once and for all, we have realized the orbiting and inspection of the Mars. This will blaze a new trail of our discovery into the outer space. To guarantee its success, when Tianwen-1 arrived on the Mars, we will also tour around the landing area. So we must have a good grasp of information about the landform over there, including the climatic conditions in the surroundings, to avoid any fire on the Mars. And with our comprehensive analysis, in May and June this year, we will land on the Mars to continue such discovery in the later stage. Last year, we had an opportunity for Mars probing, and we have seen a lot of successes and breakthroughs in the Emirates and the US and China. So we are competing with each other to discover more for mankind, and we will stay open-minded to walk hand in hand with the other countries so as to contribute to building a community of shared future for mankind. Looking back at history, whether it's about developing rockets or launching the satellites or the manned spaceships or discovery in the outer space, the Chinese aerospace people have completed a lot of grand missions, and we have formed our own spirits. For example, the Beidou spirit, the deep space discovery spirit, all of those spirits are enshrined in our patriotism and our perseverance so as to climb higher in this discovery. And they are already rooted in our DNA. Whenever we bump into difficulties or when we succeed, those spirits will send us some alert so that we will stay composed and continue such stringent requirements of ourselves. And we will also be encouraged by such spirits so that we can rise against the challenges and difficulties ahead of us. Such a spirit is the reason why China's aerospace industry could continue such glory. And this year, we are expected to launch another 40 such missions. Our space station will be constructed, and our Tianwen-1 will complete other discoveries and inspections of the Mars. So at this conjunction road of the 2-centenary goal implementation, we will continue such efforts of our ancestors to contribute to build a big power of aerospace in China. Thank you, Mr. Bao. The next question.
And that is the members' corridor, a popular part of the official proceedings of the two sessions before the fourth session of the 13th CPPCC National Committee officially kicks off in just a few moments. We want to turn back to our studio guests here, Mr. Wang Huiyao and Lawrence Brum. Let's pick up where we left off just now. Mr. Wang, you were talking about some of the topics that you would particularly look out for this year. We heard a CPPCC member there talking about rural revitalization. That is a goal for the next phase after China successfully completed its campaign of poverty eradication at the end of last year. What is your understanding of what this concept entails, and how will we see this rollout?
Yes, absolutely. I think that one of the landmark achievement of the 2020, basically, we have seen that China has achieved is to lift almost 800 million people out of poverty, so build a well-to-do society by the 2020. But that doesn't mean that we finish the job. I think the challenge now is how we sustain that, how we can really continue to revitalize and to really make it more prosperous rural society, because China is now, the urbanization is about 55-60%, but still we have half of the rural population. So I think that is really what China needs to do. We have only 400 million middle class consumers, but we have 1.4 billion. So it's still, I think we have a long way to go. I think this section is going to see what we're going to do for the next 5 years plan, which is also for the next mid-range long objective by 2035. China is going to double its GDP. So rural is going to fundamentally important to achieve that. So I think this is the right time to talk about and to get all the proposals, all the recommendations from delegates of the two sections.
Yeah, and the issue is that the people living in the poor rural areas, they've been shaken off poverty, and now the problem is whether they can have the ability to continue to sustain the success of poverty eradication here in China, and to make sure that once they are better off, they won't slip back to poverty in the face of a major disaster or an illness. Mr. Braun.
I think now that we have a decoupling of globalization going on around the world right now, you're going to see more internal investment in China, particularly in the rural areas. This is absolutely critical because during the years of high growth and development, your rural population migrated to the urban areas, the coastal areas. It was over-concentrated. It was too much. And in the rural areas, you really had an absence of people. You had villages with just old people and children. And these areas are very remote. So by investing in the hard infrastructure, and particularly the focus now on ecological cities, that is, cities that are going to be self-renewable with renewable energy, green energy systems, water, and of course local facilities, agriculture, smart infrastructure. This allows people to move back to their hometowns and in turn reinvigorates areas which have come out from poverty to make that process sustainable. By the way, I just want to say I love this members' corridor here because I think it's great. We should have this in our Congress in America where journalists ask the representatives hard questions on the spot, keep them accountable. That's transparency. I'm impressed.
Well, this measure started back in 2018, the members' corridor as well as the deputies' corridor. They really give the members and deputies a chance to speak directly to the public, to answer their questions spot on without, preparation for it. So we talked about the rural revitalization and also anti-poverty, poverty alleviation. Now, another key issue here on this year's session is the 14th five-year plan. And the key of this plan is, of course, technological innovation, and then charting out the country's development course, both social and economic, for the next 5 years. What would be the key issues that you'll be looking out for?
Well, I think now actually we had quite a bit of a debate, discussion. I'm quite impressed, for the last several years, actually particularly last year, I mean, from NDRC to all the province, municipality, including state council office, councillor's office, we actually had a great discussion about how we can come up with a 5 years plan. And Premier Li, actually, President Xi has gathered quite a number of discussions on that. So now we have the principle now of a guideline which is approved by the CPC party, Congress. But also now it's time to put into blueprints, put into the concrete plan. So this section, I'm actually very eager to look at what has been mapped out. What are the targets to shoot for? What are the areas, rural area? How much are you going to invest? Digital economy, how are we going to develop that? Technology, how are we going to, fast tracking? But also, more importantly, China now, hardware has been getting here and there all in place. But what about soft power? What about China's the Medicare, what about the education, what about all those particular urbanization. So all those things I think I'm really very keen to know about. What would the delegates debate? What about the CPPC members to debate about? And then come up with more comprehensive, objective to achieve this new 14th five-year, and particularly also with the long range of the 2035, that China's GDP will double by then, which is going to, let's have a countdown on that.
I mean, economy is a big topic every year, and probably more so this year. Hold that thought. We're going to come back to that topic later on our broadcast. We want to take you back to the members' corridor where CPPCC members continue to answer questions from the press. Take a listen.
We know that you have built a club for reading. And what do you think are the roles that legal practitioners can play in popularizing the law? Thank you very much for your question. The implementation of civil code is of great significance to building rule of law and protecting the rights and interests of the people. And yesterday, spokesperson shared with you the Readers Club for Civil Code. And when the club was initiated, we have a team organizing members of the CPPCC to jointly read and understand the civil code. And we looked into the silence period before marriage and many other issues. And we shared the learning result to all walks of social life. And after the club was initiated, over the past half years, we have distributed more than 360,000 words of our learning results to the society. And that is the core of learning the civil code, so that we can build public faith into the law. And this is the reason why we distribute the civil code to the society. And we do so to popularize the knowledge of the law. And the legal practitioners, they need to be the main distributors of the law. And to do a good job in this area, they have to be first and foremost correct. Lawyers, they have to learn the civil code very well in the first place. And the Department of Justice and China National Lawyers Association attach great importance to this very important work. And the Lawyers Association at different localities have organized many different learning activities with the purpose to educate lawyers with the civil code. And second, they have to do a very good job. And to do the job very well, they have to relate to the general public and speak the language of the society. And we talked about how to keep the red envelopes of the children and what kind of legal punishment should go to different kinds of violations. In terms of format, we are using WeChat public accounts, and we are also using new media such as macro video clips. More than 50 lawyers in Wuhan, they have come up with more than 50 video clips to interpret the civil code. In so doing, they have pushed the civil code to the general public. And in Guizhou, there is a lawyer called Xiang Zhong who traveled into rural areas to popularize the civil code. And he even worked out a video clip for a nearby prison. The implementation of the civil code is a major undertaking for the building of the rule of law, and the lawyers community will continue to learn the law very well, and on the basis of this, we will ensure the correct implementation of the civil code and also to enhance justice in the society. Thank you very much. Next question, please.
请南区第3排中间那位记者提问。
谢谢主持人，我是中央广播电视总台央视记者吴翔提问毛福山委员。毛委员您好，3年前
My question is directed to Mr. Bao. 3 years ago, you talked about life emergency system, and we know that the respiratory system is very important, and we know that respiratory emergency care facility is not very well distributed across the country, and what kind of efforts have you made over the past 3 years? Thank you very much for your question. I remember that in 2018, I asked the media to help cover our efforts. Over the past 3 years, with the help of all of you and different walks of society, we have made important progress. Prior to 2018, in Shenzhen, they have only 500 ventilators. And there were a lot of concerns on that question. And after the members' corridor in 2018, I was told that another 500 ventilators were distributed in Shenzhen. And over the past 3 years, we have added another 5,000 ventilators, and we have saved 23 lives. And that's 23 families. And in the next few years, we are going to ensure 300 ventilators for per 10,000 people. And Hangzhou has legislated to provide AED in every floor of every hospital. And the Beijing municipal government has vowed to provide AED for all the public places, including subways. So popularizing AED facility has become a consensus of the society. The Ministry of Education has released a document to include AED in school curriculums. And we also try to popularize emergency health responses amongst schools. According to statistics, we have 330 million people in China suffering from respiratory diseases, and in every minute we have 2 people suffering from heart failures. And there is only 4 to 6 minutes for emergent response. And if we are later than this time span, we may have brain death. And you may also have found out that there are more and more people who die untimely. And recently there is one student who died suddenly while having his PE class. And there is no one who came up to offer help. And this is a great pity. And in 2020, I led a campaign with my team, and we went to all places of the country to help popularize AED. And over the past 5 years, we have trained more than 1 million people. And during the epidemic, we went online. During the training process, first aiders are very important, and so it's very important that they have the best knowledge in emergent response. In China, the percentage of CPR is less than 1%. And we are severely lagging behind developed countries. And in China, we have more than 1 billion people who needs to be trained in this very particular field. And this is a technique that is very important to each and every family. And it's not just a technique for emergent response. It also represents the level of civilization and the level of responsibility for all the citizens. According to the 18th National Congress of the CPPCC, we have to put people's life safety in the first place. And this epidemic shows once again how important life safety is. And here I would like to take this members' corridor again to call for the government to legislate laws and to popularize AED facilities. And I also call for the setting of the National Emergency Treatment Day so that each and everybody can get engaged in this very important field, so that we can contribute to a healthy China, to the revitalization and rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. Only with health can we enjoy a beautiful life. Thank you very much.
An ongoing members' corridor where political advisors are not only being held accountable for the job they do, but also offer rare and important insight into how CPPCC proposals contribute to some of the most important questions under discussion.
They solicit opinions from the public, and they also use their expertise to inform the public and help them in their own ways, because we know that the members are the best in their professions and they have the expertise and experience to influence the public in a way.
Absolutely. I want to go back to our studio guests here, Mr. Wang Yao and Lawrence Braum. Mr. Braum, we were talking about how important economic topics are. This year, China's economy up 2.3% last year, taking up about 17% of the world's total, but we're still very much in recovery mode. This is the first year of the next 5-year plan. How do you think that draft plan will come up in the 2 sessions this year?
Well, first of all, the whole idea of a 5-year plan really works with a market economy the scale of China's very well, because it allows both government and private sector to project ahead, apprehend, respond rather than react. And in this context, you're going to see a response to the global trade wars that have been taking place, because what they have exposed is those weak links in China's technology chain. And you're going to see a lot of investment into AI, into technology, to basically tighten up those links and move forward with the 5G networks within China, which will create greater efficiency. And you'll see increased use of data for things like healthcare, combating COVID-19, environmental solutions. The green energy grids depend on big data and the management of that data in order to provide efficient green energy response, especially as China moves toward an 80% green energy economy by 2050. So when we look ahead at this kind of projection, the 5-year plan is absolutely key. And when you think about other steps that are being taken, we look at right now the digitization of currency, that fact that most currency people are paying on WeChat online. This is really revolutionary, the way China is moving forward on this, but particularly to have a sovereign-backed digital currency. This is the first time. It's not Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an investment instrument. It's an instrument of speculation. This is actually a sovereign currency. And this will allow payment procedures for China's ally countries in the Belt and Road that have infrastructure and trade connectivity with China that are not decoupled, that are in fact part of the China globalization process on the Belt and Road, to be able to have more efficient payment, streamlined clearing systems, and moving the renminbi into actually being a second reserve currency. And this is, of course, a fundamental change in the entire global market and finance. Comparatively, the entire debt process in China of issuing liquidity is being maintained in a very stable way. So we're looking at stability versus volatility. Maybe 1.6 trillion renminbi will be issued this year, but if you compare in the first 3 months of the Biden administration, they're going to be issuing 1.9 trillion US dollars, and that's only within the first 3 months, and you can see more of that. That's also reflective of the state of the economy. China's economy is predominantly a real economy. America's economy is over 70%, almost 80% capital market. There is a very small trade and services economy. China is still trade and services dominated, and that requires continued investment into infrastructure, upgrading infrastructure systems, and of course developing the domestic consumption economy, particularly at a time when we see global trade reducing because of COVID-19, but also because of the process of decoupling that was fostered under a previous presidential administration in the United States. So I think this is what we can look forward to in the economy under the 5-year plan ahead.
Proactive thinking that really helps to achieve stability. Mr. Wang, I want to talk to you now about, when you break down the plan for us, last year, of course, China bucked the trend. It was the major economy that achieved growth. But looking at this year, what will sustain that domestic growth here in China?
Well, I think there's quite a few areas. I was quite impressed with the, for example, during the last pandemic year, we had the digital economies flourishing in China. I mean, now we have the Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou almost covered by digital economy about 50%, and the national GDP is about 38%. So that is the area I think that we coming out of that. That's probably the only positive thing that digital online education, online trading, online buying. It's revolutionized many ways in China. But also, what's more on that, I think now China infrastructure is actually has non-stop. China has almost 60-70% of the global fast train network. China also have the quickest 5G network now. We have almost 5 million stations of 4G stations. Now we have almost 1 million 5G stations. So it's that going to revolutionize a lot of Chinese, related product, Internet of Things, and automation, AI. So I think that is actually coming up. But what's more, I think the 14th five-year plan will continue to also to address those, like Lauren said, the weak points. Maybe we need to even pay more attention to people's livelihood, Medicare, Social Security, and education. So that is another area. But also, I think we have built probably the hardware now quite a lot. But I think, this year, also the 14th five-year plan, how can we really continue to build up the soft side of that? And I think fundamentally this year we're going to actually, continue to pull the world not from the recession. China is probably one of the best economy now in the world, but then we have to remember no country is safe until everybody is safe. So we have to get vaccine in place. We have to really, working with the US and the EU and many other countries to really, WHO, for example, to really combat this disease until we really win the final victory on that. So I think there's many of a daunting task for us to do in the 5 years plan, also in the 2021, but also not only with China, but also international. So this dual circulation strategy that initiated by the Chinese government last year is really vital, that we have to circulate well, domestically strong, but also have to circulate well internationally so that we can both really upwards.
Yeah, we'll be talking about China's economy and, of course, its trade and services sector in just a moment. And now let's go back to the venue at the Great Hall of the People, where CPPCC member is taking questions from the journalists.
What does sports mean for people with disabilities? Thank you very much for your question and for your concern to the Olympic Winter Games. And a couple of years ago, Beijing won a bid to host the 2022 Olympic Winter Games and Paralympic Winter Games. And this is an inspiring piece of news. And in recent years, we have, for 4 consecutive years, ranked on top of the medal list. But we started relatively late in Winter Olympic Games, and we had only less than 50 athletes who have participated in Olympic Winter Games. Today, we have more than 1,000 athletes for Paralympics of Winter Games, and we are able to participate in 6 major items of the Winter Olympics. In recent years, our athletes have obtained 38 gold medals in Winter Games. In 2018, in the Incheon Olympic Winter Games, we obtained 1 golden medal. So this is a breakthrough for China's Winter Olympics. So I feel more than inspired and touched by their devotion and commitment. So this is very important to inspire future successes. I believe for any given person, no matter if you are physically disabled or not disabled, you have to maintain the spirits of fighting, and only with this spirit can we realize our dreams and create miracles. As the head of the Chinese Paralympic Athletes Association, I have led a lot of athletes in participating in Olympic Winter Games. When I heard that the 90th medal was obtained, some foreign delegates came to me and told me, can China become more modest so that the other delegations may have more opportunities? And I told them that this is a place of fair competition. And foreign journalists, they ask me questions such as, why the Chinese team is able to obtain so many gold medals. I told them this is the result of a fighting spirit and hours and hours of practice. And in recent years, we have made important headways in sports, in culture, and in many different fields. For example, right now, we have more than 40 training facilities and centers across the country for Paralympic athletes. In the past years, a lot of the athletes, they could only train how to swim better in the rivers nearby. So right now we have all the first-class facilities. I believe as long as we all have the resolve, we can realize the dreams of Olympic Winter Games. Last year, the National Paralympic Ice Sports Stadium was completed, so we are blessed with even better facilities for our training. And all the athletes are working around the clock to prepare and to get ready for the Olympic Winter Games. I hope that each and every one of you can cheer for the performance of our athletes.
Thank you.
Well, as Ms. Zhang Haidi just mentioned, the Winter Olympic Games and Paralympic Games will be a year away from now, and Beijing's successful bid to host these games really sparked the nation's enthusiasm for snow and ice
Absolutely,
events.
especially after Beijing successfully hosted this summer
Yeah.
Olympic Games back in 2008. All
That's right.
over again, that enthusiasm and passion will be lighted in about a year's time.
And now, a little off the topic right now, let's get back to our guests. We want to talk more about China's economy and its trade in relation to the rest of the world. We know that senior officials have expressed confidence in China's economic trajectory, and they have good reasons to be optimistic. However, there are uncertainties in many parts of the world. On the demand side, there are a great deal of uncertainties given the fact that countries are still fighting this pandemic. We don't know how long this will last. But do you share the confidence in China's economy, and what are some of the complexity that could influence its trade relations?
Well, I think this is really a topic of concern to everybody's mind, particularly internationally, because this pandemic has really plunged us into the recession almost now, and then many countries still experiencing lockdown. So I think at this time, China's actually the confidence, the positive economy that China has gained. For example, the World Bank actually, we did an event with the World Bank, and they said China has managed 2% growth last year, and they project China going to achieve almost 80%, 7.9% this year. So I think China first has to hold on, has to boost the confidence of the world economy, has to supply the world with all the global value chain and all the supplies. So I think that number one we have to do. Second, I think with the Chinese economy is stabilized, we need to stabilize the world economy, and then that's where multilateralism is really encouraging. So I'm glad to see President Biden comes up now, and he's favor multilateralism. He come back to the WHO, he's come back to the climate change, and he actually agreed on the WTO DJ appointment lately. So I think that maybe there's an area that we can work together with China, with EU, but also we're going to see RCEP probably going to take some shape, and also CAI, Comprehensive Investment Treaty with EU. So I think all those elements that we can really work together. I think the key for overcome this pandemic is really the international community. Global leaders have to work together. I mean, CCG now is involved on the G20 preparation for the Think Tank 20 in Italy this year. So I hope that G20 this year can really achieve some common objectives so we can work together to really get vaccine popularized to help all the developing countries. With China committed $2 billion, President Biden committed $2 billion, and EU other countries, we can hopefully get that going. But I think by then, I hope that the world economy will stabilize. But also we need to upgrade the global governance system. Maybe we need a climate change organization or carbon organization, but also WHO we need to be further strengthened. I think that's really important that we internationally have to work together so that China can sustain, that dual circulation can really happen, so that China can supply the world and the world can buy China and China can buy the world, and that positive circulation can continue.
And some critics say, or analysts say, that one key aspect of the dual circulation strategy, also known as the double development dynamic, is to ensure that China could shake off its reliance on foreign technology, on key technologies, for example, chips. Your thoughts on this, Rob?
predominant investment over this 5-year plan is going to be into the development of domestic technology here. And that's going to be addressing not just our mobile devices, it's going to be addressing healthcare response, it's going to be addressing agriculture, it's going to be addressing the entire structure of our daily activities. It'll be increasing efficiencies, transportation. And this is absolutely critical now because the nature of globalization as we knew it is over with. That is not possible anymore. COVID has broken it down, and so has the increased inward-lookingness of certain Western governments, and the fact that certain Western governments are totally dependent now upon quantitative easing and printing effectively free money to pump up the capital market, in turn use the social media platforms to effectively opiate the populations and keep people at home and keep people basically out of the job market in many respects. And so now you have a structural collapse of aspects of the world economy as we knew it in the post-Bretton Woods era. And we're now in a new era. And I think a very large part of China's 5-year plan moving forward is going to be the investment into the domestic economy as opposed to just exports. That will continue. China will continue to be the major exporter to the world in many areas, of course, upgrading the quality of its exports as its technology levels increase and as those pieces that are missing in the chain and linkages of its technology are being made up for with new R&D and new development. With that, we could see then the economy in a post-COVID-19 era moving outward, working with more of the developing world, more with its neighbors in Southeast Asia, South Asia, Central Asia, Africa, and along this belt of the sort of, we can call it the Cyber Silk Road or the Belt and Road, we could then see an export economy in infrastructure, smart infrastructure, in turn linkages that are creating a new type of globalization along the new Silk Road or the Cyber Silk Road. And with this, I think you'll see increased growth of the Chinese economy. It'll be stable. You won't have this kind of excessive growth that we saw back in the decades before, but a very stable growth. In turn, we can also observe
and higher quality growth.
Higher quality.
Yeah.
And the management of the debt. This is very important. We had the past few years observing this whole deleveraging. Now I think you're going to be looking at stability leveraging, which is very different.
Yeah.
And that means that the debt problems are being tied up as China's economy moves forward.
Sure, we'll continue our discussion in just a moment. Thanks for that.
And let's get an update from CGTN reporter Cao Bing, who is joining us from the Media Center here in Beijing. Cao Bing, what is happening at the Media Center?
Yes, the members of the CPPCC of this year's session has just answered the question at the members' passage. And the next agenda for today is the opening ceremony, and which will mark the official beginning of this year's CPPCC annual meeting, which is also the annual meeting of our top advisory body. This year's meeting will start from today, and it will last 6.5 days till March the 10th. The length is a little bit shorter than previous years, but this is the experience gained from last year when the epidemic prevention and control measures were first put into place and high level of efficiency have been achieved. Meanwhile, as for the work of the CPPCC last year, the CPPCC has made a great work in increasing its political consultations. It has held over about 23 major events as well as 80 inspections. CPPCC members have also submitted over 5,900 proposals. So it really has helped the CPPCC to gain much outcomes. So the clock is ticking down for the opening ceremony of this year's CPPCC annual session. So we are very looking forward to what is happening, what is going to happen on the floor.
We're keeping a close eye on that. Absolutely. CGTN's Cao Bing live for us at the Media Center. Cao Bing, thanks so much. The Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference is the most powerful political advisory body here in China. What is the CPPCC and what are its major functions? Have a look.
Democracy, a word that comes from the Western world, is closely associated with elections. But in China, apart from elections, there is a concept of a consultative democracy, a distinct political system of its own. Chinese President Xi Jinping, also the General Secretary of the CPC Central Committee, says the essence of people's democracy is that the people get to discuss their own affairs. This is what the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference does to realize China's democracy. The CPPCC is neither a body of state power nor a policy-making organ. Rather, it serves as a political advisory body made up of more than 2,000 people from all aspects of Chinese society. It includes various political parties, people's organizations, representatives of religious and ethnic minority groups, and people from the business, science, sports, and entertainment industries. The main functions of the CPPCC are political consultation, democratic supervision, and participation in the deliberation and administration of state affairs. To be more specific, the CPPCC discusses major principles and policies proposed by the central and local governments. It gives proposals on matters concerning political, economic, cultural, and social affairs. It supervises the implementation of the Constitution and the country's rules and regulations. It also conducts investigations and studies, reporting on social conditions and popular sentiments. In 1949, the advisory body proclaimed the founding of the People's Republic of China. During its first plenary session that year, Beijing was made the capital city, and the five-star red flag was made the national flag. Since China's reform and opening up formally began in 1978, the CPPCC has played a major role in supporting the nation's economic and social development. Under this system, different political parties and social groups can have a say. This leads to more cooperation under the leadership of the Communist Party of China. With expertise and advice from various fields, the CPPCC also makes the country's decision-making process more democratic and scientific.
And the session will start in a few minutes' time. We're watching and waiting here with our two great guests, Mr. Wang Yang and Lawrence Brahm. I want to ask a question about opening up, Mr. Brahm, because we've all had a tough year last year, and some countries, including China, looked for opportunities in that crisis. Mr. Wang just now mentioned RCEP, the biggest free trade bloc in the world, achieved last year in 2020, and that China-EU investment deal, also achieved last year in the midst of all of that crisis. On the topic of China's continued promises to open up, what's your take on that?
Well, you said it, crisis, and the word in Chinese for crisis is 危机, which has two radical aspects. One aspect is danger, 危险, and the other is 机会, opportunity. So actually, every situation that is a crisis is an opportunity. If we look back over these years of transformation and reform in China, every single breakthrough in a new reform or a new jumping forward in any aspect of the Chinese economy has been about overcoming a crisis, whether it's a triangle debt crisis, state-owned enterprise efficiency crisis. Each of the breakthroughs has been about this. And now here we have a time of, again, decoupling globally because of political agendas in certain countries and also because of COVID-19. But at the same time, we have work looking forward and anticipating life after COVID-19 and reinvigorating those trading relationships which are going to rebuild the world in a new era. And I think that's really critical. And that's part of what the 5-year plan system allows for, is anticipation. Regardless of what's happening right now at this time, there is a tomorrow. And projecting ahead to that tomorrow, based on data, based on information, based on projections, allows for response and it allows for preparation. I think that's what this is all about. It's preparation for the future.
I wanted to ask this because we were talking about the dual development pattern where China now has an emphasis, Mr. Wang, on its domestic demand and domestic market. And when people hear that, they get confused about China's relations with the outside world. Does it mean that it will not be as open as before? Help us clarify that relations here.
Absolutely. I think there's quite a bit, confusion sometimes that about the dual circulation or dual development strategy China was proposing. But as a matter of fact, I think on the one hand, China has to reflect its own condition that China has lifted 800 million people out of poverty and 400 million middle class. So they have to cultivate that market, and then the consumer spending is almost equal or larger than the U.S. now. So this is one thing that China has to take advantage of. But on the other hand, China has to circulate with the world as well. So I think, it's really a two-wheel drive. I always compared dual circulation strategy as a bicycle. If it's one wheel, you cannot really go far, but it's two-wheel. You can really fly. So I think this is important that we need international collaborative efforts. So I think after COVID-19, it's almost like a Third World War. I mean, after Second World War, we had the Bretton Woods moment. Now, after pandemic war, we need a new Bretton Woods moment. So we really need to think about how we can reinvigorate a global economy. And that's why China is taking a lead on that. China proposing that not only we reinvigorate our domestic economy, but we have to do it internationally. So I think this really get a lot of confusion, but look at the fact. How many Chinese investments been made, how many exports has made, how many GDP has growth generated. It's all really contribute to the world. So I think we have to really take a fair look at China and really, keep that forward.
Yeah, gentlemen, we've been discussing some very specific topics, the key concerns for CPPCC members as well as China's lawmakers. But now, as we are seeing some live feed from the venue for the fourth session of the 13th National Committee of China's Political Consultative Conference, let's talk about this. What are some of the key issues that the CPP members have been contributing to China's social as well as economic development?
Well, I think CPPCC itself, it's a unique invention built on the democracy concept. It's a consultative democracy. But it's also a biggest platform to gather all the elites in China and also non-party members. There's 60% of CPPC members are non-CPC members. That's really remarkable. But also, there's a platform to seek opinions, to seek suggestions. Like we see the previous report said there was about 5,000 proposals being made. So they have been made many proposals on the environment protection, education, rural development, so a lot of proposals coming out of CPPC members. So it's not a senator, but they really does more to really make constructive. So all the elite in China working together. That's why I think one of the success key factor for China is the CPC is able to manage to unite all the non-CPC members and the elite of China working to a 5 years plan after another 5 years plan, so that we don't really deviate from our objective, so that we can get all the comments, corrections. It's a scientific decision making and a democratic decision making. That's probably unique, and this is a democracy in the new making, and that's really a great demonstration to the world.
And also another key task and role for China's Political Consultative Conference, the advisory body, is to promote friendly exchanges between the body itself and some other foreign countries and organizations. What are some of the unique characteristics, we should say, or advantages from the advisory body to help promote understanding, the world's understanding about China?
I think, first of all, one word to describe it is consensus, because the nature of the advisory body is to build consensus. I think this is what differs from the entire legislative process of the two sessions, the CPPCC and the NPC, and the, let's say, Western countries, for instance, the Congress, the lower house, upper house of Parliament, because it's about building consensus. And you have all walks of life, all constituencies, bringing their agendas, their interests to the table, but working through that through a process of many meetings before this big meeting takes place in Beijing, to come to a sort of matrix of agreed priorities. And then everyone works together, as opposed to continual battling for this is my interest versus that politician's ego versus that particular lobbying group's funding. None of that's taking place, because behind the scenes over the months before we get to this meeting in Beijing, there is this process of coming to a consensus and a common view of what everybody has to do together. And I think that's what we see happening right now. But that's also what was taking place that allowed China to so successfully combat COVID-19, because you had a unity. Once the problem was in front of everybody united for it, as opposed to turning it into a political agenda and having political fighting over ideological beliefs about COVID-19. I think that's the difference of this system. One word, consensus.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, we're watching live signal from the Great Hall of the People, the venue for China's top political advisory body. And of course, this year's session will last 6.5 days. Things have been streamlined. And the event kicks off amid stringent COVID-19 restrictions.
Dear members, dear friends, and comrades, the fourth annual session of the 13th National Committee of CPPCC has a quorum of 2,159. The actual attendance is 2,006. The number is up to standard. So now I declare that the fourth annual session of 13th National Committee of CPPCC officially begins. Please all rise and sing national anthem. Please take your seats. With us, we have General Secretary of CPC Central Committee, President of China, and Chairman of Central Military Commission, Xi Jinping. And leaders of the party and the government, the MPC of CPC Central Committee, the State Council, and certain organs, as well as some diplomats from foreign countries. Now let's extend our warm welcome to them all. In today's session, there are 3 items on the agenda. Now let's begin the first one. To deliberate and approve the 4th annual session agenda of 13th National Committee of CPPCC. Now the staff member will read the agenda. The 4th annual session of the 13th National Committee of CPPCC has the following agenda in the draft. First, to listen to and deliberate the Standing Committee's work report. Second, to listen to and deliberate the Standing Committee's draft and proposals since the third annual session of the 13th National Committee of CPPCC. And third, to attend the fourth session of 13th NPC and hear and deliberate on government work report and other relevant reports to discuss the 14th five-year plan and the 2035 vision outline. Fourth, to deliberate and approve the political decisions of the fourth annual session of 13th National Committee of CPPCC, and fifth, to deliberate and approve the work report of the Standing Committee of the fourth annual session of 13th National Committee of CPPCC. Sixth, to deliberate and approve all of those proposals since the third annual session of 13th CPPCC National Committee and the decisions alike. Seventh, to deliberate and approve all of those proposals by the Committee for Handling Proposals since the third annual session. So, dear comrades and members, any objection or opinion? If no other opinion, please applaud for its approval. Now, let's continue the second item on this agenda. Let's invite Chairman Wang Yang to deliver the work report on behalf of the Standing Committee of the National Committee of CPPCC.
Fellow members, on behalf of the Standing Committee of the 13th National Committee of the CPPCC, I present these reports for your deliberation. First, 2020 in review, pulling the strengths and will of the people behind the central tasks. Last year was extraordinary in a year in the history of People's Republic of China in the face of grave and complex circumstances and tasks. An unprecedented tasks and challenges the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China, with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, rallied and led the entire party and the Chinese people in uniting as one, working hard and turning risks into opportunities. We scored major success in our response to COVID. We secured a complete victory in the battle against poverty. We brought the 13th five-year plan to a successful conclusion and made important achievements in building a moderately prosperous society in all respects. Our accomplishments have won approval and recognition of our people and will go down in history. Under the strong leadership of CPC Central Committee, the CPPCC National Committee and its Standing Committee followed the guidance of Xi Jinping's thoughts on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, earnestly fulfilled their duties with the focus on the coordinated advancements of COVID-19 control and economic and social development, strengthened theoretical and political guidance with a view to addressing major concerns amongst the society, and improved efficiency by enhancing the system under which the CPPCC serves as a top advisory body. We made proactive contributions toward realizing the goals set out in the 13th five-year plan and achieved some new results. One, enhancing theoretical study and consolidating a shared political foundation. With the theoretical study group of leading parties members we achieved solid results in collective study of the leading party members group, the Chairperson's Council, the Standing Committee. 11 study groups on Xi Jinping's thoughts on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era organized 46 study sessions. In these sessions, we conducted systematic study of Xi Jinping, the governance of China, The third volume studied General Secretary Xi's most recent speeches and delved into the guiding principles of the 19th CPC Central Committee's fifth plenary session, while also studying the guidelines of the Central Conferences on CPPCC work on an ongoing basis. We carried out studies on the notion that lucid water and Lost Mountains are invaluable assets, the rural revitalization initiative, the need to build a strong sense of community for the Chinese nation, and the digital economy and history of epidemic control. More than 140,000 reflections on readings were shared, receiving over 1.1 million views online. We made important progress in applying the results in numerous reading activities. We publicized to National Committee members important opinions and suggestions through new media so that we can disseminate consensus through new media platforms. The online column on studying the civil code got 60 million hits. In this way, we promoted self-teaching, consultation, and discussion among CPPCC members, which enabled them to give better guidance to different social sectors. Through continuous learning, we have enhanced our consciousness of the need to maintain political integrity, and we have strengthened for awarenesses, for confidences, and to maintenances. The CPPCC is using the theories and principles of the CPC Central Committee to educate the public. To fulfill our consultative duties more proactively and contributing to the COVID-19 response and economic and social development. Acting on the decision and plans of the CPC Central Committee, we engaged the participating organs of the CPPCC, its special committees, and members from different social sectors in the fight against COVID, working to improve major epidemic prevention mechanisms and facilitate the resumption of production and business operations. We actively supported the efforts to ensure stabilities on 6 fronts. In addition, we helped inform the Central Committee's decision-making and the implementation of such decisions in relevant departments. We set up a fast-track procedure for handling proposals, published a total of 249 issues of the daily reports on social conditions, and submitted 699 proposals. And we also initiated some investigations covering 34 social sectors. The CPPCC members have been well educated in many different fields, and the members of CPPCC have actively engaged in different fronts. They have completed many special assignments in what was an extremely unusual year. We used different forms of consultation and made full use of the online consultation to ensure that the CPPCC performed its duties in a rigorous, orderly, and consistent fashion. Over the year, we held 23 consultation sessions. We organized 80 inspections and surveys. To facilitate the formulation of 14th five-year plan, we held discussions in the form of committee member seminars, video conferences, and meetings to assess developments. On the basis of this, the Standing Committee held a special meeting for engaging in consultations and offering suggestions in a focused manner. As for the construction of the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Greater Bay Area, we conducted special seminars. We also carried out surveys and deliberations on several key issues, and these include improving the business environment, diffusing financial risks in key sectors, fostering innovative high-tech enterprises, modernizing agriculture and rural areas, training legal professionals in international norms, supporting flexible employment through various channels, promoting ecological conservation and high-quality development in the Yellow River Basin, and protecting the environment and ecosystems of grassland. We helped special committees in conducting joint surveys with the central committees of democratic parties and the All China Federation of Industry and Commerce. We have video chats with members of local CPPCC committees and built some long-term mechanism. And we built and come up with some major proposals for the 14th five-year plan period. We actively played the role of a consultative organ, and we published 2,547 news bulletins on various issues, and we have received a total of 5,974 proposals, and 5,000 of them were accepted and filed.
Third, building broad consensus and creating positivity for unity and cooperation. We created new and better ways of conducting open discussions, committee member lecture programs, and awareness-raising tours for major and special tasks. Enhanced the framework for building consensus inside and outside the CPC and among CPPCC members and people from different social sectors, and developed CPPCC as an important channel for addressing conflicts and building consensus on our shared theoretical and political foundation. Members of the National Committee's leading party members group held talks with non-CPC members on 300 occasions to learn about their circumstances and have face-to-face exchanges. We held 10 briefings on major issues of public concern and 11 topic-specific inspection tours aimed at self-teaching and self-improvement. Leveraging the influence of our members, we arranged 14 awareness-raising tours for major and special tasks and hosted 12 committee member lecture programs to explain policies to people from different social sectors and the general public, address concerns and doubts, and guide expectations. These programs and corresponding media coverage received over 200 million views. We put in place institutional mechanisms for the democratic parties to present proposals and speeches in their respective names, and co-hosted major consultations with democratic parties and the All China Federation of Industry and Commerce. We held special consultative forums for members from ethnic minority groups and religious groups. We organized briefings and forums for National Committee members from Hong Kong and Macau. We co-hosted an exhibition to mark the 75th anniversary of the recovery of Taiwan from Japanese occupation, as well as the Third Straits Forum on community-level governance as part of the 12th Straits Forum. We invited representatives of the young generation of overseas Chinese nationals to attend the study sessions and tours. We helped National Committee members from Hong Kong and Macau build a stronger sense of political responsibility and supported governments and chief executives of the two regions in exercising law-based governance. We encouraged the National Committee members from Hong Kong to issue statements calling for enactment and enforcement of the national security law. We engaged in foreign exchanges through both cloud diplomacy and offline interactions. Via statements, forums, and interviews with National Committee members, we denounced in the strongest terms U.S. legislation concerning Xinjiang, Tibet, and Hong Kong, as well as anti-China bills regarding COVID-19 and the falsehoods peddled by certain U.S. politicians. We also supported the China Economic and Social Council and the China Committee on Religion and Peace in making clear China's position and its principles on such issues. 4. Improving our working mechanism to promote thorough and effective implementation of the guiding principles of the Central Conference on CPPCC work. With a focus on the major tasks to which we must devote ourselves in the new era, we improved the working mechanisms of the CPPCC. We formulated the rules on the consultation work of CPPCC National Committee, which define the scope, forms, principles, and procedures for consultation, set up a mechanism for conducting in-depth studies of major strategic issues, encouraged members to conduct research on their own initiative, and built a pool of specialists for participating in and deliberating on state affairs. These moves have provided sounder standards and institutions for our consultation work. We formulated and implemented the guidelines on improving our work concerning consensus building. With the platforms, working mechanisms, objectives, and targets of this work further defined, We formed institutions for translating the party's propositions into consensus among people from all sectors of society via the CPPCC's democratic consultation procedures and effective actions. We revised measures for selecting key proposals and overseeing their execution in an effort to raise the quality of the proposal handling process. We formulated guidelines on fostering a stronger sense of responsibility among members. In addition to specifying members' responsibilities, we have addressed the need to place equal emphasis on positive incentives and disciplinary restraints, encourage members to keep in contact with and serve people from different sectors of society, and commend outstanding members. 5. Intensifying self-improvement efforts and enhancing the quality of our work. We implemented the system of overall leadership by the CPC over CPPCC work and conducted rigorous inspections to ensure the implementation of Xi Jinping's major instructions and the CPC Central Committee's major decisions and plans, thus allowing the CPPCC to better exert its role as an important platform for upholding and strengthening the CPC's leadership over all endeavors. We refined systems for keeping records on members' performance and for annual performance reports to be submitted by standing committee members, and continue the practice of commenting on the performance of standing committee members who are also CPC members. We instituted a mechanism for national committee members who are not on the standing committee to attend standing committee meetings in a non-voting capacity on a group-by-group basis. Drawing on the success of our approach to holding the third session, we shortened the length of standing committee meetings while also continuing to improve our meeting culture and style of writing. We conducted field studies in a number of ways, including video-based studies, questionnaire surveys, and report selection activities. We improved the mechanism of seeking feedback on the outcomes of consultations. We implemented the responsibility system for theoretical and publicity work and enhanced our capacity for engaging in and managing news and public communication activities. In line with guiding principles of the Conference on the Work of Special Committee, we revised the general rules for special committees and gave full play to their role in maintaining contact with people from different sectors and providing services to national committee members. As a result, their competence in the work of CPPCC has been enforced. We convened a national conference on work experience for local committees, during which successful practices of implementing the guiding principles were shared and promoted. We gave full play to the role of the China CPPCC Theory Research Association in carrying out research on major theoretical issues. We supported the Central Discipline Inspection Team in carrying out inspections. We intensified efforts to improve party conduct and build political integrity, consolidated the achievements made in the campaign on the theme of staying true to the party's founding mission, and built the National Committee into a model of political competence, discipline, responsibility, and efficiency. Fellow members, we owe our achievements in the past year to the firm leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, to the strong support of CPC committees and governments at all levels and all sectors of society, and to the concerted efforts of the participating organizations of CPPCC, its committees at all levels, and their members and bodies. On behalf of the Standing Committee, I wish to express our sincere gratitude to all of them. At the same time, we must be soberly aware that there is still room for improvement in the CPPCC work. Greater efforts need to be made to implement the guiding principles of the Central Conference on CPPCC work. Our capacity for consultation and consensus building needs to be enhanced, and ways of exercising our oversight need to be explored. We must take solid steps to address these issues in our future work.
2. Tasks for 2021. Playing our part in making a good start to the 14th Five-Year Plan. In 2021, we are going to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the founding of the CPC. We are also going to embark on a new journey to build a modern socialist country in all respects. The CPPCC will follow the guidance of Xi Jinping's thoughts on socialism with China's characteristics for a new era, fully implement all guiding principles from the CPPCC CPC's 19th National Congress and the 19th CPC Central Committee's 2nd through 5th plenary session. Ground our efforts in the new states of development, put into practice the new development philosophy, and create new development patterns, uphold the themes of unity and democracy, focus on ensuring the implementation of the CPC Central Committee's major policies, decisions, and plans, offer suggestions on state affairs and build consensus, maintain high standards in the performance of our duties to promote high-quality developments, pool wisdom and strength to ensure a good start for the 14th Five-Year Plan. 1. Strengthening theoretical and political guidance with a focus on celebrating the centenary of the CPC. We will study the history of CPC in particular, but also the history of the People's Republic of China, reform and opening up, and socialism with the variety of avenues, including standing committees, group study sessions, lectures, and members' reading clubs. In line with the overall arrangement of the CPC Central Committee, we will arrange for our members to take part in the CPC centenary celebration and help organize exhibitions on the 8th National Congress. Through learning and education, we will make arrangements for democratic parties, people's organizations, and public figures from all ethnic groups and sectors of the society in the CPPCC to review the extraordinary course of the CPC over the past century, the great transformation of the Chinese nation from standing up to growing prosperous and strong, the historic achievements and changes in the course of the party and the country since the 18th National Party Congress and the development of the CPCC-led CPPCC work in order to help them acquire a firm grasp of the founding mission of the Chinese Communists and consolidate the conviction that the CPC is the anchor for the Chinese people in the face of adversity, and that Xi Jinping's thoughts on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era is an effective guide for realizing the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. We will boost political, intellectual, theoretical, and emotional identification with the CPC, follow it unswervingly, and work together with it along the new journey ahead. 2. Ensuring more effective consultations and suggestions with a focus on facilitating the implementation of the 14th Five-Year Plan. Keeping focused on the overall work of the party and the country, we will hold special consultative meetings of the Standing Committee on how to create a new development pattern and build a peaceful China, and organize special consultations on implementing the rural revitalization strategy and dealing with population aging. We will hold bi-weekly consultative forums, consultative meetings on the handling of proposals, online deliberations and consultations, and consultative meetings with relevant party and government departments and sector-specific consultations to deliberate on state affairs such as accelerating the launch of major national science and technology programs, developing a high-quality education system, modernizing industrial and supply chains, ensuring the quality and safety of agricultural products, promoting high-quality development of cultural heritage programs, expanding channels for employment in areas with large ethnic minorities, improving ecological conservation along the Yangtze economic belts, working towards a peak in carbon emissions and carbon neutrality. We will invite specialists to carry out in-depth consultations on issues such as how to progress towards common prosperity, build national security shields, and implement China's policies on ethnic minorities and religion, thereby expanding the contents of the consultation system. We will formulate work plans to carry out consultative oversight over major issues in relation to the execution of the 14th Five-Year Plan in order to help ensure effective implementation of major strategies of the party and the country. 3. Pooling wisdom and strength to promote great unity and solidarity. We will strengthen committee member lecture programs and review our experience in conducting awareness tours for major and special tasks. This year, we will host over 10 campaigns to expand channels for consensus. We encourage our members to increase contact with the people from all social sectors to provide them with more effective theoretical and political guidance and to relay their opinions and suggestions without delay. We will implement the regulations on the United Work Front of the CPC and improve the CPPCC's mechanisms for leveraging the strengths of the new model of political party system through meetings with representatives from different social sectors. Through open discussions, we will build closer ties with non-CPC intellectuals and representatives from ethnic minorities, religious groups, and non-public sector and new social strata. We will resolutely support the principle that Hong Kong should be governed by patriots, strengthen unity and friendship with our compatriots overseas and in Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, and conduct studies and consultations on fostering patriotism among young people in Hong Kong, Macau, and promoting cross-strait economic and cultural exchanges. We will host activities to mark the 110th anniversary of the Revolution of the 1911 to keep the great spirit of revolution, rally China's people both at home and abroad to promote the great cause of China's reunification and to advance national rejuvenation. 4. Carrying out our work more effectively by ensuring the implementation of all systems. We will implement the guidelines on strengthening party building in the CPPCC for the new era and other relevant regulations and intensify the self-improvement efforts of special committees and party branch groups. We will hold a national conference on party building for CPPCC committees at all levels to exchange experience and share best experience. We will give full place to the principle of our members and earnestly implement mechanism for collecting data on their performance, assessing their performance, and incentivizing them, and to enforce disciplinary restraints. We will also hold seminars on the role of our members and to improve proposals and opinions on improving the performance of CPPCC members. We will strengthen and improve our work related to the proposals, and we will practice frugality and try to reduce our work costs and improve our work quality. And we will also continue to build CPPCC into a model body.
3. Enhancing the CPPCC's role as a specialized consultative body and improving its institutional efficiency. Our country has entered a new stage of development in which we will build China into a fully modern socialist country, and this shift puts new and higher demands on the CPPCC. It is therefore crucial that we put into practice General Secretary Xi Jinping's important ideas on improving CPPCC work and the guidelines of the Central Conference, so that the CPPCC will grow stronger in its role as a body dedicated to consultation and be in a better position to further translate its institutional strength into effective governance of our country. First, grasping the CPPCC's institutional strength. The CPPCC is, by nature, a body dedicated to consultation. As an integral part of China's governance system, the CPPCC has served as a unique platform and an important institution for the CPC as it has led our people in developing socialist democracy and a Chinese approach to governance. We should review the success of China's socialist political system over more than 7 decades, as well as the great efforts made over the past year to combat COVID-19, eradicate poverty, and respond to major risks and challenges, in order to fully appreciate the strength and the constructive nature of socialist consultative democracy. This will allow us to improve our judgment, comprehension, and ability to take action with regard to political issues. We must constantly enrich the institutional practice of the principle that the people's affairs should be discussed by the people themselves and leverage the strength as a force that draws energy together and channels it toward a common political cause, a democratic platform that enables discussion on an equal footing, an intellectual reservoir of talent and expertise, a tool for coordinating relations, and a conduit for maintaining extensive contacts with different sectors of society. By so doing, we will be able to channel our vast and varied knowledge into our shared fundamental interests and integrate our pooling of ideas through discussions with our pooling of energy behind major undertakings, thus building solid intellectual and social foundations for upholding and strengthening CPC's leadership and accomplishing the historic mission of national rejuvenation. Second, continuing to refine the CPPCC's working systems. Since the convocation of the 13th CPPCC National Committee, we have formulated or revised 77 major working systems and established a preliminary framework of systems based on the CPPCC Charter, which covers consultation, the performance of duties, organization and management, and personnel development. Continuing to follow a practical approach, we should promptly review and refine new and effective methods that have been developed in the course of our work, such as online deliberations on state affairs, reading clubs, discussions on social conditions and public sentiment, and contacts with people from various sectors, and design new systems and regulations. In developing the CPPCC's culture of consultation, we should enrich our consultative practices by drawing on the fine traditions of Chinese culture. We should see to it that Chinese values such as coming together for a common purpose, relying on collective solutions and joint efforts, pursuing diversity, harmony, unity, equality, and inclusiveness are all reflected in the development of CPPCC systems. This will allow us to better exhibit CPPCC's essential characteristics and unique strengths as a body dedicated to consultation. We must ensure strict compliance with all CPPCC systems. We should make efforts to become familiar with these systems and respect, maintain, apply them in our work. While taking consultations seriously and conducting them in an orderly fashion, we must guarantee they are lively and spirited. We need to build an inclusive consultation system, coordinate CPPCC consultation with other forms of consultation, and ensure that CPPCC operates effectively as a specialized consultative body within China's governance system. Third, enhancing the CPPCC's capacity to perform its duties. For the CPPCC to better serve the modernization of China's systems and capacity for governance, it must improve its capacity to perform its duties. We need to make the CPPCC an important platform for upholding and strengthening the CPC's leadership over all endeavors, for uniting, advising, and guiding representatives from all ethnic groups and sectors of society with the CPC's new theories, and for resolving conflicts and building consensus on the basis of our shared intellectual and political foundations. Facing the very real problem of inadequate capacity and the anxiety this creates, it is imperative for every member to study harder. For us to fulfill our duties, we must comprehensively boost our capacity to keep to a correct political direction, conduct surveys and research, maintain close ties with the people, and engage in cooperation and teamwork. As members of a specialized consultative body, becoming experts at consultation should naturally be among our most pressing tasks. We need to enhance our capacity to conduct consultation with non-CPC representatives so that we can provide effective theoretical and political guidance with relevant departments so that we can translate specialist input into policy options, and with people from different sectors so that we can serve as bridges for conveying demands, pooling wisdom, and promoting consensus. We need to hold more training, research, and discussion sessions for our members and put emphasis on cultivating them through practice. We will encourage members to apply relevant rules and methods of communication for more effective consultation so that they are able to fully express their views while engaging in amicable exchanges with others and seek common ground despite differences of opinion. This will enable them to ultimately offer more useful suggestions and build consensus more effectively. Members must have a thorough knowledge of CPPCC's role, be adept at consultation and deliberation, abide by CPPCC's rules and disciplinary regulations, and act with integrity. Bearing in mind our mission, we should better align our will to serve our country and people with the work of the CPPCC, so as to fulfill our duties and responsibilities and show that we are ready to shoulder new commitments on the new journey ahead. Fellow members, Though the challenges facing us may have once seemed insurmountable, we are now passing over them in confident strides. Let us unite even more closely around the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, hold high the banner of socialism with Chinese characteristics, and continue breaking ground in the CPPCC's cause in the new era. Let us make new and greater contributions to building a modern socialist China in all respects and to realizing the second of the two centenary goals.
If you're just joining us here on CGTN, these were live pictures coming from inside the Great Hall of the People, the venue for China's annual political gatherings. And this afternoon, the fourth session of the 13th CPPCC National Committee began there. We heard an extensive speech report on how the CPPCC carried out its work last year, which also laid out its priorities for this year.
Yeah, it's always an important job for the CPPCC members, who are China's top political advisors, to review the government work in the past year and also to finalize the priorities for the year ahead. And while these meetings have always been important, but this year's session is especially important because of a critical juncture in time. This year will mark the beginning of China's 14th five-year plan, as well as the 2035 vision, which will chart China's course in the long term. And also the centenary of the CPC will also fall in July this year.
Many of these topics were covered in that report just now. And I think the word important doesn't do the year justice. One thing we've heard over and over again is that it's been an extraordinary year, and extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. Let's talk more with our studio guests here, Mr. Wang Yang and Mr. Lawrence Braun. We've heard from that report about how the CPPCC was really creative and innovative in the way it carried out its work in the extraordinary year of 2020. There was an emphasis on online learning for CPPCC members. There were also online consultations for them to better carry out their work. Mr. Wang, let me start with you. Your thoughts on how the CPPCC moved mountains to complete its work in the year 2020.
Yes, it's quite amazing, actually. You can see, actually, Chairman Wang Yang mentioned about that there's a 5,900 proposals was received during the year, and then over 509,000 has been actually processed. So that's remarkable. So I think throughout his speech, he was talking about how to can enhance the ability of the CPC subcommittees, but also bi-weekly meetings. But also you talk about how they're going to really, during this pandemic year, they have actually started the CPP members reading club, and then really also promoting their knowledge on how to get consensus. Also, they have developed this virtual system that have a distance learning. So I think they actually keep upgrading their knowledge and their capacities in handling all the problems. But I think most important is that they as we have seen, that is building the consensus is absolutely important, because when the pandemic happened last year, people are really worried. There's a lot of different trend, different talks at the society. So CPPC member actually played a big role in terms of building the consensus and rally the nation, fighting the COVID-19 together. Like when we have the most difficult time last March and the last April, I think CPPC has done a great job on that. So Chairman Wang Yang has summarized well last year, but also put more works on this year, which is we have to build institutional stronger for CPPCC, because this is really the soft power, but also the governance ability and capacity building and things like that.
Yeah. It's always important to know that these members are not just here for this plenary every year, but they actually carry out their duties, carry out their work and fulfill their duties on a daily or monthly basis, carry out research and hear from the public.
Yeah, I can give you an example. For example, the Chairman Wang Yang mentioned about bi-weekly meetings. I actually participate in that. We have another CC member participate in that. Actually, it's a long process. They organize the subject, set up the committee, do the investigation, goes to different parts of China, seek the opinion from the ministries, compare notes, and then come up and seek the CPPC members, have a big round table, and then talk with the Chairman Wang Yang and also all the ministry representatives. So they have a policy consultation right there on certain topic, on education, for example, on talent, on development, and so it's really a good consultation process where all the ministry has represented, normally a vice minister attending that, hear that, so that they in turn can push their policy back home, back to the ministry, or the province. So, and also they have sometimes have the televised and the video conference, the local subcommittee participating, or the selected members, the scholars or think tankers to really present different proposals. They evaluate that. So they seek a lot of opinions. So it's really amazing that a bi-weekly meeting normally held for the whole morning, but takes probably 6 months to prepare. There's 20, 30 committee, each prepare one. It's very busy for the whole year.
Yeah. So we could see that the advisory body keeps innovating itself to fine-tune its work strategies. And in the meantime, as we just mentioned, the 14th five-year plan is front and center of China's national plan in the coming years. And let's take a listen to what Wang Yang has just said. Well, China's top political advisor, Wang Yang, has made some suggestions on how the CPPCC could improve itself and better facilitate the implementation of the 14th five-year plan. And here's what he had to say.
We will hold bi-weekly consultative forums, consultative meetings on the handling of proposals, online deliberations and consultations, and consultative meetings with relevant party and government departments and sector-specific consultations to deliberate on state affairs such as accelerating the launch of major national science and technology programs, developing a high-quality education system, modernizing industrial and supply chains, ensuring the quality and safety of agricultural products, promoting high-quality development of cultural heritage programs, expanding channels for employment in areas with large ethnic minorities.
Let's continue our conversation with our studio guest here. Mr. Brahm, I didn't get a chance to get your take on that report at the session. Talking about consensus, a lot of the obstacles we had last year were due to the pandemic, and it was under that consensus, and we should add right consensus, that China was able to fight off the pandemic and achieve economic growth and all of that. So if you were to summarize how the CPPCC carried out its work last year under those extraordinary circumstances, what is your impression?
The first thing is, this is not a body of professional politicians.
No.
It is a cross-section of professionals throughout the entire structure of China's society. So we have leading doctors, biologists, researchers, scientists, so you could have immediate response, opinion, analysis, and be able to come to very quickly a consensus within the professional sector of science and healthcare of what had to be done, moreover, how to do it, because you also have healthcare workers, people who would be on the front line who are in the CPPCC. Beyond that, implementation is critical across all areas of the society. And having lived through this whole COVID crisis here in China, the thing that struck me the most was when it was understood how serious COVID-19 was. It's worse than SARS, 10 times worse. How to address it, the whole society came together in consensus and went about this. And you didn't have the political bickering, the politicization of a pandemic that you saw like in the United States, where it became, whether you wear a mask or you don't wear a face mask, depends on your political alignment, what party you're in, what ideology you have. None of that existed. It came down to one thing. There's only one enemy, and that's COVID-19. Everybody's together. And an organization like the CPPCC, which we're seeing the national meeting, but you have provincial CPPCCs, you've got, city, urban, district, and the fact that you have this pyramid scheme of professionals in all walks of society who could carry that message down the street, I think that makes the difference in unity against a common enemy like COVID-19 and the success of China's response. Again, we're back to one word. Wang Huiyao just said it, consensus.
The ability to come under this united umbrella, to come under this right consensus, is obviously the strength here of the advisory body CPPCC, but that strength is taking on new challenges this year. For example, another recurring keyword is the new 5-year plan, right? How do we execute the plan with the right advice from the right people, from a mixture of people on all fronts of society? That will be the challenge this year. Mr. Wang, your take on how the CPPCC will build on its success last year, but also rise up to new challenges this year in 2021.
You're absolutely right. I think China now, after 40-some years of explosive growth, opening and reform, all the fast speed and big high growth. Now we come to from the high speed to high quality. Same thing is true for the CPPCC members. Now they're really concerned about the speed, but now they have the concern about what are the high quality now. So I think for CPPCC itself, it's have to innovate itself as well. For example, Chairman Wang Yang said, we need to build up institutions, actually more mechanism, more consultations. So this political, democratic consultation is really the key. I think democratic consultation, so make a scientific decision. Regarding the 5-year plan too, you have, as Lawrence said, you have experts from every field involved in the 14th 5-year plan, participating in the CPPCC meetings. So we're not talking about politicians talk about politicians or talking about the empty, substance. But we really have the experts in different fields. That's one of the, I think, the merit of this system. That they pick the best brain, pick the best talent, elite, a lot of them, particularly in the CPPCC, so that they actually can analyze well, they can really comment well, they can really also 60% are non-CPPCC members, so they are bold to talk, they don't afraid to criticize them. So internalize a lot of constructive democratic decision-making process, which people don't know probably outside. But this is really, I think, the one of the effectiveness of the governance China that actually learn and perfect it gradually in the current situation. I think in the future we have to do more to improve the soft power and the decision-making the effectiveness.
Yeah, when people talking about the CPPCC members, the advisors, you mentioned a couple of times they are the elites of the country. One concern is that because they are the best in their professions, they are so good at what they do, they tend to lose this connection with the grassroots, with the ordinary Chinese.
No, not necessarily, because NPC members are coming from all walks of life. Yeah. Sometimes the peasants, farmers have a visit. But also we have, I'm talking about the national CPC members, but also you have a county CPC, you have the district CPC and the provincial CPC. So you have actually all walks of life. But actually it does reflect the knowledgeable people, but also they are actually doing all those groundwork. But one of the most important things, they send hundreds, even thousands at all levels of CPC investigation or study tour annually. Hundreds of tours taking place. So that actually, they go to study, reflect the situation. So it's almost like, even though they may be elite, but they actually go deep into the real life, rural life, and then they really reflect that, and then they really come up to compare also with international practice. So they also absorbing all the best practice around the world and make a right recommendation and for the CPC and the governments to adopt.
I think Wang has a great point here. I mean, they're all very capable people themselves, but how do we make sure the proposals they put in are representative of the everyday people, of the ordinary people, representing their desires and their needs?
Multidisciplinary. I mean, the nature of the organization crosses over all kinds of professions. And when we're saying professions, it's not only the professionals, doctors, lawyers, scientists. You're also looking at people in the agricultural sector, people in businesses. It's a vast cross-section. And also, as Wang Huiyao just explained, it's not only a horizontal, but it's vertical. And vertical and horizontal. So you have these different levels working in a pyramid way. So as people who rise up in the system over the years and come to the national CPPCC, over the years they were at the lower level, maybe the city, district, they're representing a cross-section. And so in this way you have a lot of voices that are coming into the system. And when you're planning an economy 5 years ahead. You need those voices from agriculture, from business, from state enterprise, private sector. All of it's there, together with all the professionals. And this is very different. For instance, in Washington, D.C., a lot of the proposals are coming from think tanks. And the think tanks, it's a cycle. When the Democrats are in power, the Republicans go into think tanks. When the Republicans, the Democrats go into think tanks. So it's basically incubation of the stale.
Yeah.
But this is actually constantly looking at the society, its needs, its changes, projecting it, and then providing the advice that will become policy and later legislation to make it all work.
And it is from the voices of these people that the members and advisors pull their strength and wisdom from. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for staying with us throughout the 2 hours. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so it was live broadcast of the opening ceremony of China's CPPCC, and tomorrow it will be the National People's Congress, and CGTN will bring you live coverage of that event.
With that, we come to the end of our special coverage today. I'm Zhongshi in Beijing.
I'm Wang Yang. Thank you for watching.
Thank you so much for the privilege of your time.